What if I told you that the one thing narcissists fear more than anything isn't your anger, not your rage, not your confrontation. It's your silence, your detachment, your indifference. That's right, what truly terrifies a narcissist is when you stop reacting altogether. And by the end of this video, you'll understand exactly why. You'll see how Carl Jung's psychological discoveries unlock the path to not only surviving a narcissist, but transcending them entirely. So let me ask, have you ever felt like you were slowly disappearing inside a toxic relationship? Like your sense of reality was slipping away little by little every time they gaslighted you, blamed you, or twisted your words until you no longer knew what was true? That's the trap, the narcissist's web. And Carl Jung spent decades decoding it. But here's the good news. There comes a moment, an unseen turning point, when the power dynamic flips. And when it does, they feel it before you do. Today, I'm going to walk you through 7 subtle but powerful signs that prove you're no longer under a narcissist's control. In fact, you've already defeated them. You may not know it yet, but they do. And when we get to sign number 5, it just might change the way you see your healing journey forever. But sign number 7, that one shatters their entire psychological structure. Let's begin. Sign 1, your silence becomes their loudest nightmare. Carl Jung taught that narcissists rely on something he called psychic feeding. They feed off your emotional reactions, your anger, your sadness, your need to explain yourself. But when you finally detach, when you reach a place of what Jung called psychological individuation, something shifts. This isn't the manipulative silent treatment. No, this is a deep internal transformation. It's the moment you no longer feel the need to defend, explain, or prove anything. You've reclaimed your voice by no longer offering it to those who twist it. And here's what makes this so powerful. Narcissists can't control silence. They can't decode it. They can't manipulate what isn't expressed. Your silence becomes a mirror reflecting their emptiness. It creates a psychological vacuum that they cannot fill, and that terrifies them. But that's just the beginning. Sign 2. Their flying monkeys start abandoning ship. Jung observed a fascinating phenomenon he called psychological satellites, individuals who orbit around a narcissist's false persona, enabling and echoing their illusions. These flying monkeys act as enforcers of the narcissist's narrative. But when you break free, when you stop reacting, stop playing the role they begin to see through the mask. You're no longer feeding the drama. And without the drama, the narcissist's gravitational pull weakens. Others begin to notice the chaos that always seems to surround them. Slowly, people realize you weren't the problem. You never were. Jung called this a collective awakening when multiple people simultaneously pierce through the narcissist's facade. And when that happens, the narcissist's support system crumbles. They're left alone, bewildered, watching their empire of illusion collapse, and they know it started when you stop playing their game. Sign 3. They start copying your healing journey. This is where things get really interesting. Carl Jung discovered that narcissists would engage in what he called hollow mimicry. They imitate emotional growth not because they want to heal, but because they fear being left behind. When they see you growing, going to therapy, embracing self-awareness, finding peace, they panic. Suddenly they're talking about mindfulness, posting about self-love, dropping quotes about healing. But here's what Jung made clear. Their imitation lacks the suffering that brings true transformation. You've done the inner work. You've integrated your shadow. You've confronted your pain. They're performing. They're mimicking your peace because deep down they know they'll never truly earn it. You've become everything they can't genuinely free. Sign 4, their hoovering falls flat. Jung described the narcissist's desperate attempt to suck you back into their world as psychological hoovering. It's their last-ditch effort to regain control. They may reach out with a fake apology, send nostalgic messages, say things like, "I've changed." But when you've developed what Jung called psychological sovereignty, it doesn't work anymore. You don't react with hope. You don't feel validation. You feel nothing. And that nothing, that's everything. Indifference is the death knell of narcissistic manipulation, because in your indifference, they cease to exist in your psychological world. Jung said it best, indifference is the narcissist's greatest fear, because when you no longer respond, they no longer have power. This is when they experience what Jung called narcissistic collapse. It's not just a loss of control, It's a collapse of identity. They realize they no longer own space in your emotional life, and it shatters them. Sign 5, they become psychologically invisible. You want to know when you've truly won, when they no longer cross your mind, when you're not avoiding them, not obsessed, not angry, just done. Jung described this as psychological transcendence, a stage where the narcissist shared is no longer relevant to your existence. They're not your enemy. They're nothing. But here's the twist: they feel that. Jung's research showed that narcissists might have an eerie ability to sense when they've become irrelevant, and it drives them into existential panic. They may lash out, escalate, or try to reignite the old pattern, but the more they try, the more obvious their defeat becomes. You've reached a place they will never know: complete psychological freedom. Sign 6, their smear campaign becomes white noise. When control fails, narcissists resort to what Jung termed psychological warfare. They start a smear campaign: lies, gossip, attempts to poison your name. But here's what Jung found so powerful: when you've healed, their attacks don't stick. People stop believing the drama. They start connecting the dots. And instead of damaging you, the narcissist exposes themselves. You don't have to defend yourself. Your peace, your growth, your silence, it speaks louder than their noise ever could. As Jung once said, truth does not need defending, it defends itself. And when their accusations fall on deaf ears, when no one rushes to their side, they realize you've already won. Sign 7, they experience what Jung called psychological death. This is the final blow, the collapse of the narcissist's entire identity. Jung discovered that narcissists build a false self around one core function: control. When they lose the ability to manipulate, when you become immune, they don't just lose a person, they lose themselves. They face what Jung described as psychological death, the terrifying disintegration of their carefully crafted persona. And because they've never developed a true self, what remains is a void, an empty shell. They may become erratic, dangerous, desperate, but it doesn't matter anymore because you're no longer there. You've risen, you've healed, and in doing so, you've forced them to confront the one thing they fear most: their own emptiness. And here's the beautiful part Jung emphasized: your healing isn't an act of revenge. It's a light. And light doesn't attack darkness. It reveals it. Your peace shines in ways their lies never could. Your growth exposes everything they pretended to be. And without doing anything but becoming yourself, you've shown the world who they really are. Carl Jung's final insight on narcissistic abuse was this: the narcissist's greatest fear isn't your anger, it's your healing. Because your healing proves that everything they said about you was false, that you are and always were more than enough. So if you recognize these 7 signs in your life, understand this: you haven't just survived, you've transcended. You've become what Jung called psychologically sovereign. And the best part, you didn't even have to try to defeat them. You were just becoming who you were always meant to be. That's the ultimate victory. So if this message resonates with you, if something inside you feels seen, heard, understood, please take a moment to subscribe. Share this with someone who needs to hear it. And remember this: the narcissists may never admit they lost, but deep down they know. And now you do too. Thank you for walking this path with me. Until next time, stay sovereign, stay free.